This is Rudy,
This is Slick.
and we are up to episode 63, the number of weeks of the year. We're getting down there. We're going to go in hard this week on Best of 2020. We're talking best songs this week of 2020.
It's part one of our 2020 Faves and Raves. We'll be talking about albums next week. This week we'll be talking about songs. So not necessarily singles, but just songs that we like a lot from this year that aren't included in our favorite albums.
Yeah, it was a good year for songs, and we're also going to give Spotify their due here, and we're going to partake in that, I would say, like a new ritual every year when Spotify spits back to you what you listen to. I think we're going to go Socratic method here. We're going to go through our Spotify playlists. This could get very embarrassing.
Yep, Socratic method, just like Socrates would.
This is the Socratic method, and I'm a little nervous. You are a shameless person. You have, in the sense that you don't believe in guilty pleasures. You listen to everything, and if you like it, you're fine with it.
Yeah,
I
if I like it, there's no reason to feel guilty.
I don't know. If you like something like, Seasons in the Sun or some weird clunker, I don't know. I feel like there is room for guilty pleasures. My list has a lot of guilty pleasures. I'm a little nervous. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
but I don't like Seasons in the Sun. That's
all right. I'll work on that. All right. So up next, we're jumping in best of 2020. We're doing songs and we're talking Spotify playlists. That's up next.
bringing us in for episode 63 of the Left of the Dial podcast. Part one of our discussion of our faves and raves of the year that we are still in. It's going on forever, but in just a matter of weeks, it will be over. 2020.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who wants 2020 to stick around. I'm pretty ready to let it go. I think we're going to say about the nicest stuff you can say about 2020, because we're going to talk only about the good music. I don't know. We're going to do songs. We're going to do albums. It's kind of a mixed year. We'll see how it goes. I'm mostly enthused. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and yeah, so we'll be accentuating the positive in a year where it's not easy to do.
Yeah, it takes a little doing. I mean, look, we did not talk about this beforehand, and you can certainly swat me down, but 2020 feels like the year of the single to me. I really think this thing of dropping songs one at a time is really making the singles list tight this year. Really hard. It doesn't for me. I thought I had way more top shelf material than I could get into a dozen. I feel like the songs that single song release, that digital streaming single, it's really starting to. I think it deserves a genre of its own, and I think it should be respected by you. You're not feeling that? You don't think 2020 makes the case?
I don't know. I mean, this is kind of the way I feel about 2020, whether it be singles or albums. Most of what I like, not all, but most of what I like came in the early part of the year. It's almost kind of the way, the pandemic came in, where things sort of stopped, although it didn't quite time out the same. But the second half of the year just wasn't as fruitful, regardless of whether you're talking about albums, whether you're talking about songs. I do have some, not as many.
Yeah, I have a few, but I have to be really, and this is, I have to admit this now. It's some of these songs that I got into in the back half of the year came out in the first half of the year, and I just didn't catch them in their in at their debut. So I'll cop to that. I'm not sure we had the strongest back half of 2020, but I'm guessing. Well, I mean, what realistically, how many bands can afford major studio time at a time like this? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I do wonder how much the business aspect of it came into play, because you might have an album that you're ready to drop and you realize that you're not going to go out and tour on it. So maybe you hold off until 2021 to release it. I don't know. I assume that happened a few times, if not a lot. So I think that definitely, I would suspect it played a part. Um, yeah, I mean, definitely, if you want to talk about how the year goes, how unusual this has been, and speaking of live music, um, I saw exactly two concerts this year, and the last one being, I think, around March 8th. And so I saw one in February, one in March, saw Sloan, and then the Black Lips. I can't remember the last time I only ever saw live music twice in one year. I'm sure I was a kid at that time.
Yeah, that's pretty rotten. It's a rotten. It's rotten for everybody. All the way around. Um, it's just. I also. I will say I expected that we were going to have like a huge wave of like quarantine albums. That either are like made of necessity in someone's apartment
Yeah.
or made very deliberately on purpose. As a just a way of doing it. And I have to admit, if people are making a ton of those, I don't know what they are. You know what I mean? Like if there's a great quarantine album that's been made, I haven't heard it.
Well, the most well known one, I'm sure, is the
Swift.
Taylor Swift one. She's so famous, and yet I had a hard time remembering her name. The Taylor Swift one, Folklore. I think that's the most well known one. And I would imagine there's a wave of those coming. But yeah, I mean, if you had any intentions of taking something to the studio, it probably didn't happen in 2020. But home recordings, I imagine there will be some of those still waiting to be released.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, I mean, the bands are not going to be able to get out and work out stuff on the road. I got to think jam based songwriting is a little hard to do, especially if the band's like successful and doesn't all live in the same town. The idea that you're all going to like travel across country, especially if you've got family and stuff, it's got to be a rough time. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm not trying to be a downer. It was not. It's not like a bad year for music. I'm trying to shame you into loving the streaming single, and it sounds like I'm going to need another year to heart your or to thaw your heart.
Yeah, I'm just not as much a single person. I like singles. Anybody that likes music likes a good single, I think. But albums are more where it's at for me.
All right. Well, let's first. We're up next week with our albums. I'll flip you for it. I don't really. I don't have to go first. It's not a draft.
Right.
I'll go first just to make it easier. So we're gonna do 13 total, right? We're doing Baker's dozen on songs.
No, we don't have a number assigned to the
All right, I'm gonna
singles,
do the Baker's dozen.
or and okay. So I do want to point out that singles isn't necessarily the correct term. These aren't necessarily singles. These are songs. So these might be songs that were on an album that wasn't good enough to make either of our lists.
Sure,
But we wanted to include that. So singles isn't really the proper designation.
got
Just
it.
songs.
All right, songs. All right, I'm gonna do a quick scan through. Um, it was a pretty good year for covers. And I think the cover of the year. Let me make sure I'm not writing the check. Oh, my cover of the year is a band. I'm assuming the name is Klowski, Qlowski. They had a fantastic couple of singles. The A side was IKEA Youth, which is a fantastic song as well. But the B side is their cover of The Cure's Grinding Halt. Fantastic. Prince Fatty's reggae cover of Kraftwerk, The Model, was fantastic. This is all really good stuff. Boy, I really don't. It's probably a little early here to go super hot take, but I think the cover of the year, and it's a song I don't really like the original, and so I don't really like the cover, but the performance is so good that I have to give it over. I don't know this artist. Apparently, he's fairly famous. Teddy Swims is his name, and he did a cover of "You're Still the One," which I believe is originally Shania Twain. When I used to work overnight at the Kmart up there on Collins Road, and everybody got to pick music every night. You could play over the intercom system. I used to work overnight, stocking the shelves. Somebody put on some station that played that song so often, like I have muscle memory for it, and I don't enjoy it. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I,
Like it's just the cover is so good. Go try Teddy Swim, Still the One.
all right. Yeah, I'll pass.
Wow.
I don't think that the best cover of that one is going to want to make me listen to that song. And
Oh,
I wasn't subjected to a million repeated listens of that. But no, just no thanks.
damn. All right. I'm if we're doing a free grazing format, I'll come back in a little bit. You're up.
Okay, so yeah, I don't really have like a definite place I want to start here, and I don't really have mine grouped. Um, I'm just going to start where it is on my list, and they aren't really in any particular order. But early in the year, Corner Shop came out with new material, and it's the first time in a long time for them. So, a lot of good comebacks this year. And they had a single, and it was a true single, Saint Marie Under Cannon, and I would say definitely one of my favorite singles proper of the year. So I'll just start with that. And then in just a moment, I need to find my list again.
That's good because I forgot to mention the actual cover of the year. If you're not going to accept, that is Fruit Bat's cover of Smashing Pumpkins today. I'm a little worn out on the acoustic cover, but
Mhm.
they single-handedly brought the genre back. So I want to throw that in quick while you're digging up your stuff.
Okay, also early in the year, this isn't, I don't think, a single from the album, but Wolf Parade's Thin Mind was one of the early. I'm pretty sure this came out in January because it was early.
Yeah,
And Julia, Take Your Man Home. Um, very interesting song about some dude that just needs to get out of, needs to leave. Um, yeah, and Thin Mind was a pretty good album. Didn't make my list, but I think possibly a top 20 for me somewhere or somewhere around there, maybe top 30. Funny songs aren't always my thing, but in addition to that, I'll just branch off to Bill Callahan. I think Bill Callahan's stuff this year was pretty great,
yeah,
and a couple of songs on my list from his album, Pigeons, which has one of my favorite intros ever, where he starts out with the "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash." Can't do it justice because it really needs that Bill Callahan delivery. Um, Also, really like the Mackenzies. Just everything works so well because he delivers it so letter perfectly. He delivers everything in a way that assumes that you're on the same page with him. Although the page that he's on is a crazy page. So, but it works because of his commitment to it. Let me see. Also, early in the year, rest in peace, Coyote Condo from Granddaddy. Wire had a lot of stuff early in the year that I liked a lot. Mind Hive, but Mind Hive wasn't the only thing. But on my list, Primed and Ready from Mind Hive by Wire. Glad to have them back as well. And also, while we're on the subject of comebacks, Greg Dooley, Pantomima from It Falls Apart was a good song. Yeah, I'll kick it back to you after that.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab that. The Greg Dooley made a couple of my playlists this year. It didn't end up making my list, but there was a cluster of old farts who made really good records this year. Uh, the Tanya Donnelly covers record, which I just found here at the end, I basically stole from you. I am really enjoying that. Tanya Donnelly for me is a first ballot Hall of Fame all-time great at covers. In fact, almost every cover record she's on, um, she's the best cover on. She does the best
Well,
work.
yeah, and I want to vouch for her non-cover work too because she's
Oh yeah,
great at the belly stuff and the throwing music stuff. All of it's very good. But yeah, I agree on the covers as well. And yeah, a really good covers album. Like I didn't really make much room on my list for covers, but I will second your opinion on that album. And she picked some good ones. Let Me Roll It by Paul McCartney, Days by the Kinks, different drum, of course, Linda Ronstadt, back in the Stone Ponies days. Really good choices all around.
yeah. A couple other old farts who did well this year. I thought the X album was good, and I liked Alphabet Land, the song in particular. I thought the Rolling Stones single that came out, the one about being the little like, hey, they had a song about lockdown. I thought that was kind of interesting. I can't remember the name of it, so it could have been that great, I guess. But it was pretty good for them. It's pretty good for them.
uh,
Um,
yeah, I don't know. We're really going to drop our standards for the Rolling Stones. I don't
yeah,
want.
yeah, they have to be pretty bad not to be pretty good. Uh, I would say of Montreal's record was not as good enough to be called like a real comeback record, but I do love the song "Don't Let Me Die in America." And then my two golden old farts who I thought did really well. Gang of Four was and losing Andy Gill this year is terrible because they
Mm.
were on a heater there. And a little EP came out that sort of collected the stuff that did come out from their most recent sessions. I Forever Starts Now is in my most played songs of the year. It's really good. It's not a retread of their old stuff. It's identifiable as them. Like it's not surprising when you hear it. You're like, oh yeah, that's Gang of Four. But they never ran out of ideas, and they never stopped caring. And it's just good stuff. And then a certain ratio who I don't want to act like I'm a huge fan of theirs, but if you like old British indie music in particular, they're on almost every compilation you buy. And eventually some of that stuff stuck for me. They had an EP or an album this year. The song Berlin I thought was fantastic. I hope I'm getting it right that this is actually new music of theirs and not just some archival stuff. But I think it's new, and it's really good. So
I
those are
want
my.
to go. I want to go back to the comebacks for a moment. And first off, I want to mention that there isn't too much I want to say about the X album right now,
Yeah,
and I guess I'll go ahead and spoiler alert that is going to be somewhere on my albums list, and that's why I'm not going to talk too much about any
nice.
particular song from that. But yeah, of course, that's an excellent comeback. The Pretenders also on Hate for Sale, or their new album Hate for Sale, had a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, making my list. Turf Accountant Daddy. I'm not really even sure what that refers to, but it's a killer song. Toots and the Maytals. Unfortunately, it this was an album that was released 2 weeks before Toots Hibbert passed away from COVID-19. Really like the song "Warning Warning" from the final album. Got to be tough. Uh, Elvis Costello, I won't call this a comeback because he really has gone anywhere. But and Hey Clockface was one of my favorite albums of the year. But No Flag, I think, was a great song. Really put me in a mindset of looking forward to the album, which I didn't love, but I do love the song. And there's a version now out with Iggy Pop doing the lead vocal on it and doing it. partially in French, which I think is just how Iggy speaks these days. It's just everything is in franglais. Um, I think that's just the way he's hooked up now. He's just wired that way. But that's out now. I do have a preference for the original Elvis Costello vocal. Yeah, so that kind of covers the rest of what I have for well, a couple more comebacks.
Dramarama had a comeback this year, and they did a very good cover of Dylan's "Abandoned Love." So Dramarama, I don't know how many people are sitting around waiting for new music from them, but I was so happy to have that.
Yeah, and I guess along the lines, I still have a couple of along the lines of comebacks because it's been a while since there has been Posey stuff out, and Posey's had a nice single, Sideways, that came out this year. I don't know if an album will be forthcoming, but have a nice single there. And yeah, I can't forget a very recent one, AC/DC. Wasn't expecting too much, after the most recent AC/DC offerings, but the new one, Power Up, has a few, dare I say, bangers on it, and included Realize, the first track on my list, which I like quite a bit. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it, but I honestly think this is an AC/DC album that's worth a bit of your time.
Interesting. I have heard some nice things about it. I don't know. I go through phases with AC/DC. We're kind of on the outs right now. We'll see what happens.
That's on you, though.
I am guessing. I've talked about it many times. I just got to do it again here. I want to throw in my favorite record label this year, hands down, was Third Man Records. Third Man Records also published a couple awesome editions of their magazine, Maggot Brain. The first episode, the first edition was actually printed. It was fantastic. I miss great music magazines. I loved, like, if you go to like Los Angeles in the 90s, and you could still pull up to those like block long magazine stands. Those are great. And I thought the Third Man magazine was great. But two record releases, the Silver Synthetic EP. I don't know anything about them. They're from
New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. Out of the Darkness is one of my favorite songs of the year. Just like maybe it's right outside my top 10. And then I go hot and cold on the Fiery Furnaces. Sometimes I hear them and I think like they're the greatest thing in the world. And then sometimes I listen to them like, I don't think anybody really likes this. I think everybody just talk to themselves into pretending they do. However, there's no debate here. The Down at the So and So on Somewhere, that is a Third Man single release this year, is fantastic. So Third Man had an incredible year, I think, in terms of there's other artists. I probably could have prepped a whole Third Man segment. I'm not going to do it, but they had some great releases. Their re-releases still are great. It's like I think the last time I went to a real record store was the Cast Corridor Third Man, and it's sort of like the last time I remember spending a long time in a record store. So I did want to give a shout out with a couple of songs, but Third Man's my record, and Third Man Records is my record label of the year, and they still are a great follow on social media. So.
Yeah, I like the Silver Synthetic EP as well. I have Unchain Your Heart on my list. Okay, so not necessarily a grouping here, but similar in some ways. Black Lips, they're garage rock, so that fits. Their album "Singing a World That's Falling Apart" was pretty good. Like nothing earth shattering or anything like that, and it didn't quite make my list of albums, but has a good amount of winners on it, and I picked Gentleman out for my songs list. Let me see. I know I'm forgetting. Well, Drive By Truckers also had a really good year with a couple of really good releases. I'm gonna go ahead and say one of them made my albums list. The other one almost did. I was almost considering cheating and including them both in the same slot, but they did come out like 9 months apart from each other, so it wasn't quite kosher. So from their first release, it isn't actually in front of me right now. So just a moment, I got to look this up because I didn't enter it on my list.
No worries. Um, we I forgot in my comebacks is No Age. I might talk about them a little bit more on the album side, but No Age is like a great singles band, and I know singles and song aren't interchangeable here, but they had a good album and they had some great singles as well. I'm a sucker for that for stuff like No Age. It's not like I wasn't hanging around in like Los Angeles seeing them when they were getting started, but um, they're really good and they're getting better. So anyway, here ends the lecture.
Okay, well, so the first Drive By Truckers album that came out this year was The Unraveling. Didn't quite make my list. Armageddon's Back in Town is the song that I intended to put on my songs list, but didn't end up doing that. But I will have to amend that, and I'll just toss it back to you since I had to navigate away.
All right, I am starting. I don't know how many do we have left each apiece.
Again, no assigned number, so however
All right,
many you want to talk
I'm gonna
about.
start getting into my heavy song rotation for the year, stuff that's was new to me in 2020, was new to the world in 2020, and really, I think everything left for me is a certified banger. I'm just letting that be known. Um, I do the corny, stupid thing of going in where I'm traveling somewhere. I will very frequently type in that location, and I will look to make a playlist of music that where I'm going.
Yeah,
This is, yeah,
we
but
both do. We
yeah.
both.
I'm a little pedestrian about it though. Like I don't know why I enjoy it so much, but I came across the band Pottery, which I believe is a international supergroup from Canada and the UK. Um, However, the song they wrote this year that I just think is a mega banger is Texas Drums. I don't know how to explain it. It's there's two versions, Texas Drums Part 1 and Part 2, and then there's
You
a
know,
version where they're stuck together.
I have I was scanning your list actually, and
Yeah.
I like this one a bit. Um, so I have a bit of a comp for this.
Okay, good.
I think they sound a bit like Oingo Boingo. So dispute that or go along with
No,
it.
it does, but it's like it's got a little bit of that that no wave New York stuff. The what was Z Records and it's got a little bit of the no wave. It's got a little bit of an edge to it, like Oingo Boingo, I guess. Yeah. So I like the version that just sounds sort of primal and fun and just jammed out with buds. But if you get the version where it's part one and part two, they basically do one of those awesome 70s disco codas that goes on forever. You're like, I that was the one of the things I really miss about disco, especially like the 12-inch versions of disco songs, where they'll just do it'll be like a 4-minute pop song and it's great, and then they'll just go into some extended space disco coda for like 8 minutes. I love stuff like that. There's just not enough reverence for that. Every once in a while, I think Phenomenal Hand Clap Band does that stuff really well. But just every once in a while, you'll catch some band who's able to do the great disco coda. Texas Drums Part 2 is one of my favorite disco codas of recent memory. So I don't know anything about Pottery. I just started hearing this song on one of my playlists and it just kept jumping out at me. It's a lot of fun. So I'm really glad you gave that one a listen, Mr. Flick. It's a weird little song, but I've enjoyed it all since I've been listening to it enough to put it in my top 10.
Yeah, worthwhile. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to comebacks. There's even more than you realize. Although it hasn't been too long since Travis put out stuff. It's only been 4 years, but seems like longer. So I'll just mention Travis along with good comebacks in 2020 with their song "A Ghost" from 10 Songs. I believe it was the first single that they came back with. Uh, already mentioned the Pretenders. Do you know what a turf accountant would be?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't.
It's driving me
Good.
crazy, but it's a good song.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I should just say no, and I will not speculate.
Okay. And then in no particular order, Hamilton Lighthouser been putting out stuff pretty regularly in his post Walkman days. And the new one, The Loves of Your Life, has some good stuff on it. I put Here They Come on my songs list. Cable Ties, Australian band Cable Ties, from their I think first full length album. I think the only other thing they had before this was an EP, and have the song Hope from that. Sturgill Simpson, Cutting Grass Volume One, which is kind of they're bluegrass versions of songs that he already had on previous releases, but it's reclamation through recycling is kind of what he's doing here. But although that doesn't sound like the greatest sales pitch for it, it is definitely worth your while to give it a listen. They are great songs, and if you like bluegrass at all, you'll love this, I think. Um, but above all, the material is just great. It's some of Sturgill's best songs. Sharon Van Etten, I love just about everything she does. But especially this year, like she didn't have an album out this year, but she had some really great singles. And Let Go is one of my favorites in a while. I guess that kind of goes back to just a year ago when she had a full album out. But Let Go is a really great song.
All right, up next, I am grabbing a. I'm not a huge. I don't know a ton about the band Whitney from Chicago. I actually found them because I like the Waxahachie stuff this year too. Not as much as you, but she's on that album. The one that they put out. It's on Drag City. It's called Candid, and I think it was the first single. I can't remember, but I got really hooked on the song "Strange Overtones." It There are not a lot of records that are just, I want to just say, are nice, but it's nice, and it has a beautiful little arrangement. It kind of reminds me of like the really good Paper Cuts records or the like vetiver stuff from the aughts. It really sort of feels into that, fills that void in my record collection these days. I think Paper Cut still makes records, but I dig this stuff. So the whole album's pretty good. I don't know it well enough to have made it in my top 10 list, but I haven't heard anything bad from it. So start with Strange Overtones and see if you dig it. By
I know a little bit about Whitney. She was originally from New Jersey. She was married to Bobby Brown.
Damn, she was on a Bill Laswell record early on. I did because I got into Bill. I liked Public Image Limited, and they were doing work producing with Bill Laswell in like the mid '80s. I looked into who he was, and Bill Laswell makes a lot of like weird jazz, like downtown stuff. He made a lot of like early hip hop. He has like one of the early. He's got a couple early recordings of Whitney Houston singing. It's not out. It's like sort of. It's an attempt to make a pop record, but before she was famous, he's got some recordings of her that you should go listen to. They're interesting. I'll put them in our playlist. They're like pre-fame Whitney, where you can just hear she was going to be a star, even though she wasn't singing anything like what made her famous. You can just hear it. So yeah, I'm going to throw a little
Well,
Whitney on. Different Whitney.
yeah, actually, in all seriousness, some quick facts about the band Whitney. They are former members of the band the Smith Westerns. So Smith Westerns are a fairly known commodity, at least
Well, there you
in
go.
the Chicago area. So yeah, they didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's good. I like the record a lot. I'm surprised it isn't getting more love, but hopefully now we'll get it going. Strange Overtones is just a great single and a great little song.
Okay, so next up on my list, Jeff Tweedy, another solo album. I think there's Wilco stuff in the works as well, but he's done a couple of solo albums in the last couple of years as well. The new one is called Love is the King. I got Guess Again from that. Not really a bad song on the album. It's it's stuff that sounds a lot like Wilco would sound if they would have stuck to the sound that they had in the early going. So if just basically coming off of AM, if they would have just kind of stayed frozen in that area, that's kind of what the Jeff Tweedy solo stuff sounds like. Um, Brittany Howard did a cover of "You'll Never Walk Alone," released as a single. I'm of course a sucker for that, being a Liverpool football fan. I can't go wrong with that. Another good cover, the Avett Brothers with "This Land Is Your Land." Pretty timely, coming out right at election time. Um, Haim, the LA band Haim, their album "Women in Music" Part 3 was pretty damn good. Didn't quite make my list. They might be a little too LA for me. I don't know, but a couple of songs I like a whole lot off of that one. The first track on the album, titled Los Angeles, and then I've Been Down, my two favorite tracks off of that album. The band Salt, which is a songwriting collective in the UK, had a couple of albums this year, and both really pretty good. Didn't quite make my list, but from the second of the two, called, well, I think they're both called Untitled technically, but Rise is the name in parentheses, and the song is Free. And I'll throw it back to you. I just have a
Yeah,
few.
I'm going to have to jump up here. I have a Salt record as well in my top songs. I picked Wildfires, which um, I don't know how to explain this stuff. Like, again, I wasn't pumping Salt all year. To be honest, I really didn't catch them here till the end, and I just confessing, I saw just lots of other people talking about it, and I don't know it very well. So
Yeah, they do not do publicity. They
yeah,
it is very hard to find information on who's actually in it. Michael Kiwanuka contributed some to like their album, one of their albums, I think last year. They've put out a lot in the last couple of years. I think they've put out 4 albums in the last couple of years. As far as really who's contributing to it, it's kind of hush hush, and they just don't do publicity.
yeah. I'm not sure if this is super popular stuff in general, but I would say this is among the more interesting records to come out in a while. I definitely intend on going back and spending time with both of the records from this year because I haven't heard a bad thing on either of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's probably oversimplifying it to call it R&B. Um, Maybe I don't know. I'm probably not the best person to make that call, but
It's
um,
pretty eclectic. Yeah, I would say it's a mix of things.
yeah, it's like this is I think Wildfires is like the best song since Gnarls Barkley's Crazy. I think of them as being of an ilk. Just one of those songs that like the first time you hear it, you're like, oh, like whoever wrote that just pulled that down out of the ether. Like that was just waiting in the in the heavens to be pulled down and made a song. Like it's just perfect as it is, and it's sort of a singularity. So um, I'm digging everything I've heard so far, and I don't think they need to do all that much more publicity. Like I hope they can make a point of not being a typical publicity hound,
Oh well,
music
they're
act.
yeah. I mean, they're completely the opposite. That they don't, like it's on one hand, yeah, it's I agree. It's great, that they're letting the music speak for itself, but like there isn't even information about who what the personnel is on the albums, or and that's the kind of thing I would like to know. I don't know who produces it. I don't know who contributes to it, but it's good, and that at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what else comes out because you're right. Like it's good at more than one thing. That's I think why I'm excited. Like it's not just a song here or there. This is they may not be famous, but they're professionals. Clearly, this is not amateur hour by any means.
All right. Just a couple more, and these are kind of these are the bands that I'm always going to be paying attention no matter what they do. They never really let me down. Guided by Voices always has at least one release out every year, and this year certainly no exception. They're always busy. Uh, this I went with one song for my list out of all of it. From Surrender Your Poppy Field, I went with Always Gone. They always have also have a song that is one of my favorite titles of the year, and that is Andre the Hawk from the same album, which has to be referencing Andre Dawson, of course, the great Hall of Fame baseball player. Pixies has had a few things come out this year, a few singles, and most recently they had a single a cover of T Rex's Mambo Son, which can't go wrong with that. Backed with Hear Me Out. Hear Me Out is the song I selected from my list because it's an original and I like it. And a new single from Teenage Fan Club. Hopefully, there's an album on the way. The single is called Home. And that, I think, covers my list.
All right, let me do one more here. A couple that I just can't leave behind. The artist's name is Sneaks. She is from Washington D.C. She had a song a few years ago I liked called "Look Like That." Nothing really sounded like that record. It has like a little bit of an improvisational quality to it that was great. And I've been wondering when I would hear something new, and it came out. It's an album called "Happy Birthday." Came out this year. Um, there's great stuff on there, but there's one song for me that was a standout. It's criminal that this song did not like break through. The song is called "Faith" by Sneaks, and I admit, like anytime a modern act does like '80s post punk better than it was in the '80s, I'm an admirer. I think it's almost as good at doing '80s like post punk spirit as the First Strokes record. It's a very different vibe than the First Strokes record, but give it a shot. Two quick ones. Jay Som, the song "Can't Sleep" I've already talked about, so I won't talk about it. It's a B-side from over the summer, I believe. I love weird old B-sides, and it's the best weird B-side I've heard in 25 years. I love it. I've listened to it. It made my top half of my list, I think, for the year. She also, with I believe her partner, um, created the band. Her partner, I believe, is Annie Truscott from Chastity Belt, I think. Well, they've made a super group of sorts called Routine. The first song, I think, is a little bit more of an Annie Truscott composition. I love it. It's very close to being my favorite song of the year, called Katie Road. I don't know. I wish I was in the desert right now instead of the Midwest. Like now that the winter's really happening, like the fact that I'm quarantined here in the upper Midwest for the winter and just going to be snowed in for months. I
Well,
miss being in the desert so much, and this song reminds me of it.
yeah, as we are recording this, though, we're having days in the
It's
50s to
nice.
60s,
Yeah.
so it's not, it's not crushing us as of yet.
No, I agree. But being able to be out in like December and January in shorts and sandals and that sort of incredible indirect sunlight you get in the Mojave in the winter and stuff, I really miss that. And the song by Routine called Katie Road, I think, captures that about as well as anything I've heard. Like it instantly is a mood, it's a thing, and it's making me very homesick for California. And then my favorite song of the year so far, I think it'll be at the end here, is the band Goat Girl. I don't know much about them. They're very British, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And their song "Sad Cowboy." I think it has a little bit of a Talking Heads reference in it, a great one, Remain in Light era. But
South London.
South London, yeah, they're really good. They've had, I think they had the song "Cracker Drool" a few years ago. That was a big favorite of mine. This, again, I mean, it feels like it's almost as it's like reminds me of like Devo, a little bit, maybe that's a bit of an overgeneralization, but really good stuff. So "Sad Cowboy" by Goat Girl is great, and you got to give it a try. It reminds me, they're a little bit like parquet. They're like a British female parquet courts. Sounds a little bit like Berlin Got Blurry, at like plus Devo. It's good stuff. Give it a rip.
All right. Well, okay. Just to tie up loose ends, I did have one more song on my list that I didn't mention. It's not a super important song, but and it's not a super important album. The new Strokes album I didn't really like all that much. I did like the song "The Adults Are Talking," and it is included on my list, and I thought it was worth talking about. So I'll just mention that quickly. But in all honesty, the Strokes haven't had a really good album since one, but a few good songs here and there is kind of what I see.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, the most important songs of the year aren't just found on your top songs of the year. They're also found on your Spotify top songs of the year, Flick.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to play a little game. We have a little time to do this. So we wanted to quiz each other on our Spotify top songs of 2020. I'm calling it 2020 questions, where we just kind of do a little back and forth. And I think it's kind of self-explanatory. I'll just quiz Rudy about songs on my list, and he'll quiz me on songs from his. And just to give you an idea, the first one I'm going to throw out there. My Okay, so it'll be like 20 questions where you can narrow it down. You can ask me a question, and I'll give you a yes or a no.
All right.
So my number one Dylan song of the year.
It's Going, Going, Gone, right? Because it's the one that we talked about the most often.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, it is true. It is a very 2020 place. So yeah, that is my number one. So since that was an ill-conceived way to start this, I'll go with what is my number two Bob Dylan of the year.
Oh, see, that's much harder. It is also a chance, though, to do sort of like a backhanded diss. I could say like Wiggle Wiggle.
It's never going to be Wiggle Wiggle, but play it like 2020 questions. Just give me a.
All right. Is it before the 80s or after the 80s?
It is before the 80s.
Is it on Blonde on Blonde?
It is not.
Interesting. Is it on Highway 61?
It is not. And I should be counting these questions. That's 3.
Is it backed by a band or is it solo?
Meaning,
is it just Bob Dylan with a guitar or is it Bob Dylan with a band?
You mean like it would be live with him and a guitar?
No, I'm just saying the actual song, second most listened to Bob Dylan song that you listened to this year. Who's accompanying him? Is it just him or does he have other musicians with him?
He has other musicians with him.
So that it's probably after the first 3 or first 4, but it's before the 80s. So say is maybe I don't think you like Blood on the Tracks as much as I do.
That's not a question.
Is it Tangled Up in Blue?
It's not.
It should have been. All right. Damn. I can't. I have one of my friends.
You've only asked 5 questions, so I would just
20 questions to get a Dylan song.
I guess if that's what it takes.
Oh, this is rough.
Unless you surrender, then I guess.
Was it released as a single?
That's a good question. Let me see.
All right. Well, I already know that it can't possibly be Knocking on Heaven's Door because that was definitely released as a single.
It's not an obvious single if it was at all.
It's Spanish and is the loving tongue.
No.
Well,
I'm counting that. That's 7.
All right. This is brutal. Is it Changing of the Guard?
That's yes, it is. How'd you stumble on that?
Well, we were running out of I'm trying to think of the Dylan records I know you like. In that era, and it's not a folky song. So if it's not on Blonde, that increased the chances of it being from the 70s.
Well, I don't I, I guess I can't argue with your logic because you got it, but I don't necessarily agree with how you got there.
Well, also because Frank Black has covered it. That
I
was
didn't
also
even know that. I didn't
yeah.
even know that.
There's a Frank Black cover of it somewhere. I'm pretty sure. So I sort of was just sort of it was a little bit of Battleship there.
The only cover I'm aware of on it is Patti Smith, and hers is a damn good cover. But that's the only one I'm aware of.
All right. I'm going to ask you what Suede song or London Suede song ended up in my top 10 this year?
Is it trash?
No.
Is it on Coming Up?
Because of the way Suede's catalog is managed, I can't remember.
Well,
it's
you
not
should find
online
out.
right now. It was taken offline late in the year.
So you don't know what it was originally on?
No, I don't, because I'm listening to it on the greatest hits, because they swapped out the studio version for a live version. So the version on my playlists, they swapped out because Suede took it down. I can't remember the name of the original album.
But really, that's not fair, because if you don't know the answer to that, I can't play the game, because I need to be able to ask that question and have an answer for it.
Which album did you ask about again?
Coming Up?
Yeah, I believe it's on Coming Up.
Okay. Well, then I got it narrowed down enough to get it just on that. Is it Beautiful Ones?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not on Coming Up.
Okay.
Hold on.
Is it?
You're right. I don't know their albums well enough. I should not have used this as an example.
do you know what song it's and this shouldn't count against me. Do you know which album yet that it was on?
Yes.
Was it on Dogman Star?
I'm sorry. I thought I knew the answer. I don't. I can't. The album it's on is not on Spotify right now. They took it down, and I'm having the worst brain fart trying to remember which album it was.
Yeah, I think you got to forfeit this one. I think
I think. All right. I know what album it's. I can confirm what album it's on, and I'll give it to you as a freebie to end the torture. It's on Head. It's on Head Music.
Okay. Head Music. All right. Is it Electricity?
No.
Is it Can't Get Enough?
It is.
Okay.
Again, Suede gets real cute with their catalog, and again, it's their catalog. They can do whatever they want for whatever reason they want, and I know none of them are happy with the arrangements. They can take their stuff and put it up and take it down anytime they want. But it's one of those things where you have a playlist going that you love and you've been listening to over and over, and that song fills a magical spot, and they take it down and they swapped in the live version, which is good, but it's not as good. Very unhappy. It just hurts. It hurts a lot. That's a great song. It's one of the last great songs, to be honest.
Okay, so some of these might be too easy to narrow down for 20 questions, I'm thinking, but all right, I'm going to stay on Dylan, though, because I think this would be a good 20-question one. This is going to take some work. My number one Dylan cover, not being a Dylan covering someone else, but someone else covering Dylan song. What is my number one?
What genre? I'm sorry. What decade does it come from?
It's got to be yes or no.
Oh, these are very. That's kind of shifty.
You can still do that same sort of question in a yes or no form. It just has to be in a yes or no form.
Is it from the 70s?
Yes.
Oh, a Dylan. I have to. Is it Bet Rose? Is it Bette Midler's Nuggets of Rain?
No, and I wouldn't just take stabs in the dark yet, because there's too
Well,
much stuff.
I got the first question first time with the first answer, and I got within the top 10 last time. So
That's
I'm
true. I
hoping.
don't know. I still don't know how
I'm
you
an
did.
idiot savant, and I don't pretend otherwise. So, um,
Well, it did take you almost 10, but
I had 20. I had him to
I
burn.
know. I know.
Is the uh, is it a female singer?
It is not.
Hmm. Did this record chart?
I doubt it.
It's a Dylan cover from the 70s that did not chart. Is the artist British?
No.
Is the artist American?
Yes.
Is the artist a singer? I'm sorry. Is the artist a band?
No.
Is this a solo male performance?
Yes.
It's a 70s solo male performance. It's a Dylan cover and it did not chart. Did the artist performing it have a charting hit in the 60s or a
Yes.
charting album?
I Okay, so I'll give you a little help here because
Is
the
this
answer is yes, but not as a solo artist. I'll say it that way.
so is it Doug Zom's Wallflower?
No.
All right. You got to give me something on that, right? That's a guess
I
for
I
you.
did. I did. It's somebody who had a charting hit in the 60s, but not as a solo artist.
Interesting. Is it Rocky Erickson? No, he never did a Dylan cover that I know of.
And I don't think they charted either, did they?
The 13th floor elevators?
Yeah, I don't know. Did it chart? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's certainly locally charted.
Well, it's not, so
All right. This is brutal. Because in a way, this doesn't really narrow it down at all.
besides that, Rocky Erickson covered Dylan in the 60s, so it wouldn't be that.
What did he cover?
It's all over now, Baby Blue. The
Right.
13th floor elevators covered that.
That's right. He did. Boy, God, was he good. All right. This is really unfortunate. Did the singer ever appear in a television show that you know of?
Well, I'm sure he did. Yeah,
Okay. Is the singer currently alive?
I can't even say for sure, but I'll find out.
I see. Maybe I'm onto something here.
No, is not currently living.
Wow, this is gonna hurt. Um, because
Yeah.
almost
And
every
I've lost count, but I think you're probably
yeah, we're
around.
there. I'm willing to give up here, but every male 60s artist that tried to chart again in the 70s probably did so with at least one Dylan cover. I'm going to plead special circumstances here because 70s Dylan covers that's you could have 200 questions and you're really only going to narrow it down so far.
You
Who is
still
it?
you,
I'm giving
okay?
up.
Okay, it's Tears of Rage by Gene Clark.
Oh, I came very close on Tears of Rage, but I couldn't think if anybody in the band had done it solo in a way that was memorable. All right. I'm gonna do. Wait, do I get one more?
Yeah, yeah, go
All right,
go ahead.
I wanna stick it to you here. I give you something to think about here. Um, I've already told you the answer to some of these things. Dang it, these are too easy. This sucks. This is all too easy now. I can't make this easy on you. Well, what's my highest charting Beach Boys song for the year?
Is it from the 60s?
Yes.
Is it before 1966?
Yes.
Is it about surfing?
No.
Is it from Pet Sounds?
No.
Is it from Smile?
No.
Let me see. Is it written by Brian Wilson?
Yes.
Is it In My Room?
It is not.
Is it before 1965?
Yes.
Is it before 1964?
Yes.
Is it about a car?
No.
Okay. Does Brian do the lead vocal on it?
No. I think it's Mike Love, which I'm really starting to have mixed feelings about. But
Wait, so it's before 1964.
yes. In
Mike
fact,
Love Mike Love does the lead
1963.
vocal, but it's not about surfing or cars.
No. I've talked about it twice on the show because
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I can't stop.
now I'm going to be able to seize on this.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
I believe it came up on the 1980 show and the Brian Wilson birthday extravaganza.
Oh, is it Farmer's Daughter?
It is Farmer's Daughter
Yeah.
because Farmer's Daughter is great, and everyone should love it more than they love the songs
I
they currently love.
I guess that's the other thing. I forgot the third part of the trifecta. It's surfing, cars, and girls.
Correct. You were so close too.
Yeah.
Although the sidewalk
Well, no.
surfing thing, I think
Well,
was that.
what do you mean close? I did get it.
Oh, that's right. You did. You're right. All right. This game is a fickle mistress. Um.
You want to do another one?
All right. I'll try one more, but I get frustrated easily. I'm old.
Okay. All right, let me see. Let me try to come up with one here. Okay. My number one REM song.
It's supposed to be gardening at night, but I don't think it is. Is it on Murmur?
It is, or no, it is not. It is not.
Is it from the IRS era?
It is.
Is it from Life's Rich Pageant?
It is not. Although I'll say it, for the millionth time, that is my favorite REM album.
Well, I had to go there, right?
Yeah.
Wow. It's not on Murmur. It's IRS era. Is it on Document?
It is not.
Why isn't it? All right. I'm just gonna have to play this out. Is it on Fables?
It is not.
Ah, come on! It's on Reckoning.
It is.
Well, I already know you don't like South Central Rain, which I cannot understand.
It's not that I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it like you do. I guess I'll say that.
Is Michael Stipe the vocalist?
Yes.
Is Peter Buck the author of the music?
It's the credits are all the same. Yes, it's.
Oh, I thought "Don't Go Back to Rockville" was by Homeboy. But all right.
Well, no, they all have all of their names on the songwriting credits.
Is it Seven Chinese Brothers?
It is not.
Come on, try harder. It should be. Is it pretty? Is it Pretty Persuasion?
It is not.
Oh no. Is it? Well, it can't be "Don't Go Back to Rockville," right?
It's not.
Ah, crap. Is it Harbor Coat?
It's not.
Well, we're kind of running out here then. So, is it Time After Time?
It's not.
Is it Second Guessing?
It's not.
Is it Camera?
It's not.
Is it Little America?
It is.
Farts. Come on. Why would you do that to me? You know what? I applaud you for you to be going for Little America, for going deep on. You're closing out side B on Reckoning. So take my hat off to you on that one.
Yeah. Well, it's a deep catalog.
When's the last time you listened to Gardening at Night? And don't lie.
Earlier this year.
All right, good. I want to wage a very an all out campaign in favor of Gardening at Night. Um, I love it, and I don't understand why it's not more loved. It's because it doesn't sound like their other stuff. It's because Michael Stipe hadn't quite got the mumbling down yet. Yeah. I'm gonna go listen to that now too. Fantastic. All right, I have to do one for you, don't I?
Yep.
This is all right. I'm gonna make this easy, but not really. Which AC/DC cover? You can name the band, the performance, or the song. They're kind of all the same, but what AC/DC cover made my top 100 songs of the year?
Boy, that isn't going to be that easy because I can't even think of any AC/DC covers. I don't think.
Hmm.
Who covered AC/DC? All right. Well, first
You don't
question
have to
is
name the artist. It's going to be very hard to name the artist.
okay. Well, first question, is it a Bon Scott song?
No.
Okay. Is it from Black and Black? The original?
No. No.
Okay. Is it hmm. Is it from Razor's Edge?
Yes,
Okay. Is it a cover of Thunderstruck?
it is.
Okay. So then am I already done
You
then?
already won. Do you remember that video that was on YouTube of the Swedish Hillbillies playing
Oh, okay.
Thunderstruck? Yeah, I found it on Spotify this year, and I don't know why I didn't find it before. And I went overboard listening to like a 5-year-old meme. I don't know what to say. It's very rewarding. It's a very satisfying listen.
All right. Do you want to do another round?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me. I should have had one ready to go, but I didn't.
This is really. I'm all right. You're up next, but I'm gonna do you good. I think I'm gonna make things right here. Oh no, I have a Steely Dan song on my top 100. Oh no, did we talk about them this year? Why would that happen?
we had a banality draft, but that was it. What's the song? Or are you going to quiz me on that?
No, it's Peg. Why would I listen to Peg that often? I must have a secret life. Maybe it was at the like the beginning of the year. I can't remember the last time I listened to Peg. Oh no.
I keep on.
How much of your list is being screwed with by having to do this show? Because I've got stuff on this top 100 list. I hope no one ever sees.
Well, I figure most things, like it's a top 100 list, and I figure I've probably listened to a few thousand songs. So it's kind of hard to, I think, penetrate the top 100 now that, it was different last year because I only used Spotify from August on, and I think they stop calculating for this list around October, I think, because all of the songs I saw on my list last year were songs I had listened to, most of them anyway,
Yeah,
were songs I
yeah.
had listened to maybe a couple of times. I figure everything on my top 100 list I've probably listened to in at least, everything's at least a double digit listen. Um, okay, anything else I got, I think is going to be a little too easy. So,
Make it easy. Try me.
okay, would you rather go with what my um, I, Actually, can I make this a combo? Can I put a couple of things together?
I'm not gonna. I will. I'll allow it, counselor.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to have you guess my top Talking Head song and my top George Jones song.
Oh, the George. But I'm gonna take 20 picks total. So
Yeah,
for you,
20
I'm
picks,
trying to
20 picks to
remember.
get two.
Trying to remember what era. Okay, is your favorite Talking Head song on an album produced by Brian Eno?
It is not.
Is your favorite Talking Head song from their first album?
It is not.
Is your favorite Talking Head song from after the Brian Eno era?
It is not. And by the way, my top isn't going to necessarily be my favorite, but in this case it is. So I'll just so so just because like my top REM song isn't necessarily my favorite REM song, but
Mm-hmm.
in this case it is my top Talking Head song and my favorite Talking Head song. So
Is it on? Oh, it's your favorite Talking Head song.
well, yeah, it's my favorite and my top on the list too.
Is the song written by a member of the Talking Heads?
Yes,
Is it on more songs about buildings and food?
it is not.
So it's not on 77. It's not on more songs about buildings and food. And it's not in the Brian Eno era.
Well, one of those things that you just said is I never said one of those things that you just said was not a question that you asked me.
I thought I asked you first if it was produced by Brian Eno.
I will double check. I'm pretty sure this wasn't because I think he came in the album after this. But let me double check to make sure I got this right.
All right. Because the only. Um, I
Oh,
thought he does Fear of Music, Remain in Light, and Speaking in Tongues.
okay, yeah. You know what? He did produce it. I thought he came in the album after this.
Oh, good. Uh, is it on Fear of Music?
It is.
Is it Life During Wartime?
It is.
Ah, right. Well, I did guess. My hunch is that it was going to be from the Eno era, but you do like the first two records a lot too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I do. I like you know yeah I like the pre stuff a lot. So yeah.
You know, they've never made a bad album. I don't like the True Stories soundtrack a ton, and the last album I would say is not all killer, no filler, but it
Right.
does have Johnny Marr on it. Like so, it's it has some highlights.
Yeah, and
Flying
I
was
and,
really good too.
yeah, and I have to say this. I think it's because it's not such a great album that people feel this way, but people don't tend to like Wild Wild Life. I like that a lot.
I love Wild Wildlife.
Yeah, I'm in
I,
complete agreement. I think it gets a bad rap, but I think it's just because it's on a so-so record.
what is the or as I recall, that's recorded in the same sessions basically as Little Creatures. If you don't like Little Creatures, you suck. It's a good album. In fact, it's a great album, and the fact that there was all that other stuff that from the soundtrack from the same era, they were firing on all cylinders even then.
All
All
right,
right.
you still have the George Jones song.
Oh, Scheisse. This is I'm gonna have to do this. Is it White Lightning?
It's not.
Oh man, is it a duet?
It's not.
Is it He Stopped Loving Her Today?
It's not.
Does it appear on any of his greatest hits records?
It does.
All right, that's key to popping this open. Um, did he write the song?
He did. Or no, actually, he did not. He did not.
So this is a solo George Jones song, and it's not White Lightning, and he did not write it. Is it from the 1970s?
It's not originally, no. I mean, his original version is not from the 70s.
Does it originally come from the 60s?
It does.
Oh.
I think you had about 10 for the Talking Heads, and
Yeah.
you have about 7 for George Jones. So I think you got like 3 more.
Do the Jordanaires sing on it?
That's a good question. I don't think they do. Yeah, they don't.
This is really brutal.
2 more.
Does it have an electric bass or a plucked or a stand-up bass?
I'm going electric on that.
That's not the answer I wanted. Is it a gospel song?
It is not.
All right, I'm out of questions. What is it?
The race is on.
Yeah, I might have eventually gotten there if I'd had all 20. Um, the 60s greatest hits options on Spotify for Old George right now aren't tip top. They're just not. All right. That was significantly less embarrassing than I feared. I thought you were going to make me read the results of that little movie they make, and that was going to go badly for me.
Um, well, do you want to say who like your top artist is, or do you want to make me guess it?
Yeah, it's Peter Tosh.
Okay.
This is a weird year. Like, I don't know. When things this summer were getting politically rather uh, heated, I have to say I listened to the Peter Tosh album Equal Rights probably on repeat for a month. And it's one of the greatest albums ever made in any genre at any time by anybody. So I'm at peace with Peter Tosh being my most listened to artist this year. I don't know that I would be able to guess your most listened to artist without deviating into cliches, but this was a pretty big year for Neil Young, so I feel like just being a Neil Young fan, there's a chance that's your number one.
Well, he's in the top 5. So Sloan actually ended up being my top one because and I think it's just like the one band that I listened to start to finish, and then February I went down to see them live and was listening to it a lot going to and from. But also just because I was kind of going through their whole catalog, so that made a difference as far as them being like the top artist. Neil was top 5. Let me see. I know Dylan and Neil were in my top 5.
Yeah, I had Bruce Springsteen too, but I think that's because we had to do a fairly involved show of his this year.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So we did that draft show where we have his whole catalog going.
Yeah.
That still didn't put any Springsteen songs in my top 100 actually, which is kind of I'm amazed that Springsteen is pretty amazing to me to not have anything in my top 100 because I listen to him a lot anyway. But that just shows you how hard it is to crack my top 100, I guess. So my top. Okay, here's a quick. We'll try if you're willing. We'll try to do this as another quick question.
Yeah.
My top song that is not a Sloan song. What is that?
Your top song that is not a Sloan song.
And if you can get the artist, if you get to the artist, I'll give you what the song is.
Is it Handshake Drugs?
I would try to get to the artist first.
Oh, okay.
It's not Handshake Drugs. I haven't even listened to that in a few years.
I just went cheap. I went with a cliche there. Trying to go for the Wilco angle with you.
I don't even think there's a Wilco song in my top 100.
Really?
Yeah.
For the whole year?
For the whole year. Yeah. I'll see one.
Is it by the Regrets?
No.
Is it by Joan Jett?
Nope. You know how to play the game. You can narrow it down better than this, I think.
Is it from the rock genre?
That's tough. I would say no, but to me, everything kind of fits in the rock genre. So I'm just gonna say no because it'll help you a little bit. I think to say no.
Is it on an independent label?
No.
So
I don't know. Maybe scratch that one because I don't know if this is technically an independent label, really.
Is it by an artist I also like?
I would assume so.
Oh, that's not a yes or no answer. Now that's really gonna throw me.
I don't know that you like this artist, but I've never heard you say it, but I don't think I've never heard you say anything one way or the other. I don't think.
Is it Michael Kiwanuka?
It is not.
Has this person appeared on a television show this year? Have they performed their music on a television show?
No.
Is this artist alive?
No.
Did this artist die this year?
No.
Oh. I thought I was on the trail there for a minute. I'm not. In what year did this artist pass away? Or I'm sorry, did this artist pass away in the 20th century?
Yes.
So died in the 20th century. I give up, Flick. This is too hard.
All right. Well, it's the artist is Marvin Gaye. The song is Inner City Blues.
Dang. I would have never gotten to that. Even if I'd gotten to Motown, even if I just whittled the list down to Motown, even if
I know, I think your strategy was off on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have guessed that one, not that song per se, but I might have guessed.
Yeah, I was going to give it to you if you got to Marvin Gaye. I was going to give it to you.
I might have gotten there. That would have been some logical propensity modeling on the fly by my brain, but I didn't do it. All right. Well, look, we're talking about I will say my Spotify year in music playlist is more entertaining to me than my best of 2020 song list. But that's how it is. Like I get to pick every year, every song in the history of the world to make my most listened to list. Our 2020 list, again, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm a guy who believes in the modern single, the streaming single, the one-off release, online only. I think you're going to come to see the wisdom of this soon. I don't feel like it made a dent with you this year, though.
No, it's not the same. I don't know how a single can have the same kind of impact that a great album can have. For instance, you can have an album with the greatest single on it, but if the rest of the songs are not any good, then it's not that, it's not that great of an experience.
I think the album, again, the popular music industry, the album comes and goes, the single comes and goes. These things always change, and they always will. It's getting harder and harder to make a case for the album, I gotta be honest. I feel like this year the songs were better than the albums, but we'll see. That we'll find out on our next episode. That's not for me to decide. We'll find out.
Our top albums of 2020 coming up on the next Left of the Dial.
We will see you then.
See you next week.